Welcome to the tutorial Morphing Tool and Hints. In this tutorial, I'm going to go over the various types of hints that you can use in a morphing sequence and also use some of these hints to tidy up this sequence that I've created of a cloud moving across the plane. So let's take a look at this. And as you can see, there's a lot of strangeness happening around the contour of this cloud. So we're going to use a lot of these points and go over some of the general rules again to tidy up this morphing sequence. So hints all have a different purpose. That's why there are different kinds, but they can all be used in combination. So you can set contour hint points as well as a vanishing hint point, for example. You're not restricted to just one type or set of hints. You can use the morphing tool to add hint points to both your source and destination drawing. Hints automatically appear in both the source and the destination drawings. Hints can never exist in a single drawing. So you can never have hint 1, 2, and 3 in your source drawing and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 in your destination drawing. That would just never happen. The key to placing hints is to place them where the biggest problems are, which often then takes care of some of the smaller problems. Morphing often has difficulties where there are corners or when there are points that jut out. So it's best to start with those zones or regions, but you also must be careful not to place too many hint points. So it really does take a lot of practice to correctly place hints. So I'm going to go back to frame 1 and let's zoom in a little bit here. You can already see some of those hint points. It's just the 0 there. There we go. So I just clicked on the Suggest Hint Points button again so you could see all of them, and as you can see there are quite a few. So let's look at the list again here, and at the first type of hint, which is one that's currently selected, Contour Hint. So contour hints are used for both the outline of a zone, so anything type of a fill shape, as well as a brush stroke, because technically they're both just contour fills. So when placing contour hints, if you'd like to keep the thickness of your brush stroke, it's good to place hints on both sides, like you can see here with 9 and 10. So that would keep the consistent thickness of your brush width. So let's look at the next one, which is a zone hint. So a zone hint is used on a color zone to control the proximity rule, and is usually placed in the center of the color. The proximity rule is that a drawing object will morph into the closest like object between the source and the destination drawings. However, in the case of, say, a morphed splash, you may have many blue circles in the source layer and many blue circles in the destination layer, but what you consider circle number 1 may be closer to circle number 2 between the source and the destination layer. So to be sure that circle number 1 morphs into circle number 1 and that circle number 2 morphs into circle number 2, or say circle number 2 vanishes completely from our splash morph, it's good to place zone hints. The zone hint in this case is in cyan, which I forgot to mention that the hints have different colors. So contour hints are this yellow color, whereas zone hints are cyan. The next hint we have is a pencil hint. So once again, pencil hints are used with central vector tools. So the pencil tool, any of the shape tools, line, rectangle, ellipse, polyline, would be the best time to use those types of hints to make sure that the line goes exactly where you want, because sometimes what we consider logical in our head, the software doesn't see in the same way. So the vanishing point hint is interesting because if you remember from the last tutorial, any shape that we had in the source drawing that didn't have an analogous shape in the destination drawing would slowly disappear, but it would disappear into itself, so into its center point. If you actually do want an object to disappear from the source drawing to the destination drawing, but you also want to move across the screen, for example, from left to right across the screen and then slowly vanish, you need to set a vanishing hint point so that it knows that it starts here and then it'll vanish over here. Then you might have already guessed what the appearing point hint does, and it does actually the opposite of that. If you have an object that is going to appear in the destination drawing that doesn't exist in the source drawing, but once again you want it to move across the screen, you don't want it to appear from its origin point, then you have to set those 2 points or sets of points as well. So as I mentioned before, the numbers for each set of hint points have their own colors. So contour hints are yellow, zone hints are cyan, pencil hints are magenta, vanishing point hints are green, and appearing point hints are violet. But the actual point and not the number that appear in the source drawing for all these hints are green, and the points in the destination drawings all appear in red. So actually I'm going to go back to contour hint, and I'm going to reinstate the morphing sequence between these two clouds. I'm going to go to the source drawing, and I'm just going to zoom in a bit here. Let's suggest those points again. So I'm going to set all my points, and once again I might speed up this part of the video if it's taking a long time, but I'll of course slow down the video for anything that I think is worth mentioning. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the drawing view, because in the drawing view you can actually see a preview of the destination drawing and where all those hint points are. And I'm just going to scroll over here. I'm going to take this 0 point and drag it here. And as you do this, if you pull a point away and you bring it close to any type of a contour edge, you'll feel a snapping, and it actually slides along that contour edge. So it's good to get used to feeling that snapping and pulling, because then you know for sure you've sent your point correctly. If you kind of just let it linger on the end, it's not really useful. It really has to snap to that contour. So you can easily create new points by touching anywhere in the drawing view, or you can also make a selection around several points and hit the delete key to delete them. Okay, so I think I should probably add some points where these curly cues are, but I'm just going to leave it for now, and set the ones in the destination drawing, and then come back and see and test back and forth and see how that's going to go. I'm just going to save this, and let's go to the destination drawing. And the points are all over here because, let me zoom out a bit, my cloud has moved from left to right across the screen. Okay, so if we analyze the two clouds just a little bit, you'll see that, our 0 and our 1 start here. Our 2 and our 3 are here, so 2 and 3, so that's good. Our 4 and 5 are 4 and 5. And as we get from our 6 and 7 here, we notice that this curve between 6, 7, and 8, 9 expands. So here it's pretty small, here it's pretty big. So it's good to mark that. And then from 8 and 9 to 10 and 11, this bump kind of goes from being a bit more of an oval curve to kind of a taller circle or taller semicircle. So we see that here with 10 and 11. And then 12 and 13 take on the first indentation past this curly Q. And then here it gets a bit complicated because we have 1, 2, 3 humps in our source drawing, but we only have 1, 2 humps in the destination drawing. So I put 14, 15 here along the first, it'll stay the same, but 16 and 17 will slowly merge and they will both become the same hump. So let's play this morphing sequence and see what it looks like. Oh, in the camera view, of course. Let's reset the view. So you can see already that you don't have any of that weird warping that occurs for the blue brush contour. It was sort of having kind of swirly, watery-like pattern. Now it holds form, it holds its width and thickness, and it's a really subtle. It's just, these two humps, like I said, become one. This smaller bump here grows and becomes bigger, and this bump here sort of grows taller. So it's pretty subtle. It's not the most complicated morphing, but it works. It looks like there's a little bit of organic movement as the cloud goes across. So in the end, it looked like I really didn't have to put any hint points on the ends of these curly cues, but if they had kept warping, that's something you could easily do. It wasn't so much a problem for this shape, but as you notice, I went around in a very systematic way. So I went from, I guess I went counterclockwise. If the zero is on this side, on one drawing, it was also on the same side of the contour in the other drawing. You want everything to move in the same direction. It's a bit clearer with a undulating flag. It makes the flag look like it's waving backwards instead of forward if the points don't move forward. So in one drawing, if there's a peak and a valley, you have to make sure in the next drawing the hint points for that peak and a valley are moved forward and not backward to make that peak and valley roll. So that's it for the tutorial, morphing tool and hints. Stay tuned for the next tutorial, additional morphing tips.